Welcome to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. I'm your host, and I'm back on Wednesday. Sorry for my absence on Monday. I'm Brendyn Jones, joined as always with Nithin Reddy. Nithin, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, except for the Cubs. How about you?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I was watching that game. It sucks that they let up those real quick 5 runs, and then obviously the Cubs of this year are not the greatest offensive team.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is what it is. But 2 more games, we'll see what happens. But other than that, I've been pretty good. Who's also probably feeling pretty good right now? Lovie Smith.
Oh yeah.
For the first time since over the summer, the football team has been able to practice in pads. This is after, of course, a few weeks ago, the Big Ten deciding to restart or not to restart, but to continue on to play the Big Ten season, which is now just 3 weeks away. And this weekend, 3 weeks will be the first slate of games. Of course,
approaching.
I know it's crazy. Illinois will play Wisconsin in Madison. So Nithin, as you're looking at this Illini football team that progressed last year from the year prior, their defense was obviously good. Their offense showed up in critical moments, especially you look at that Wisconsin game, you look at that Michigan State game. You're looking at this team, and we've talked about what they need to do this year to kind of keep on that progression with this weird schedule. What are your keys for both offense and defense, and even coaching when you look at this team for this season?
I think we really got to figure out what the identity of this team is, especially offensively, because last year they had a lot of good running backs. Backfield by committee for sure. They're losing 2 of their best top running backs, Dre Brown and Reggie Corbin, which Reggie was phenomenal this time at Illinois, even though the team wasn't winning that much. I'm excited to see what Brandon Peters can do with this offense. The receivers look so good this year. I mean, Josh Bebe. We saw all those plays he made against Michigan State last year. I think better about the offense, but I just want to see what their game plan is right away. With the defense, there's always been concerns with Lovie Smith's defenses with Illinois, but last year we got a ton of takeaways. I just want to see that replicated, which might be asking too much.
It is asking a lot. I mean, you look at the NFL and you see that with the Bears in 2018 when they were just a takeaway heavy team. That's why the defense was so dominant. But I'm with you, though, on that offensive end. You obviously lose your top 2 rushers from last season, 2 very important seniors. But the wide receiving core is very deep. You look at Josh Bebe, you look at Ricky Smalling, who hopefully he can have a healthy season. You look at Donnie Navarro, who had a breakout year last year, got that scholarship. And Brandon Peters, is that quarterback that you give him a second year in this offense. And he looked phenomenal. I mean, not phenomenal, but he looked really good in different moments down the stretch for Illinois. Obviously, he battled, I think, a concussion one for a few stretches of weeks and stuff. So I just want to see on this offense, I want to see some level of cohesion and some level of consistency. Obviously, I mean, you didn't have that last year. You had inconsistencies, and I think this season, with the only 8-game regular season and the 9th championship game, you're really going to have to find that consistency early, and you're going to have to ride that out. And I think that is what Illinois needs to do on the offensive end. On the defensive end, obviously, you lose Dele Harding. You lose Oluwale Batiku Jr., 2 of your real impact guys. But I think this team can still be pretty good. This defense, I think there's just another year of experience for that secondary. So I think the big thing is consistency. You're going to have to hit the ground running with this Wisconsin game. You can take a loss in that first game, but you have to show some level of consistency and identity. And I think that comes to coaching.
Yeah, and it helps that a lot of the linebackers are coming back from a season ago. I mean, Dele obviously graduating, that hurts, but Jake Hansen, who's been phenomenal at his time at U of I, when you play Wisconsin, you just have to stop the run. And linebackers are going to be key right away of stopping this team. But I'm interested on the offensive side with some of these receivers that we've got, like Casey Washington. I mean, I don't know if you saw all those clips of him just making these insane catches in practice. And then I just feel so excited about what this passing game can do. And Brandon Peters has been hyped up. I am really, really invested in this team for the first time in a while.
Really? I mean, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago when we were discussing that schedule that they have.
Yeah.
That, they need to be 4-4 in that regular season, and they need to walk away with a win to end the season to show some sort of progression when you compare it to last year's 6-7 team, obviously losing in the Red Box Bowl, playing Cal. But I mean, yeah, I think we're both in agreement that there just needs to be some level of consistency. Stopping the run that you brought up was a really good thing. I know there was a press conference today after the practice, and Lovie Smith was talking about how, yes, you lose key contributors in this defense, but he sees this identity as really tough in the middle, which hopefully can result in some run stoppage. Obviously, you're going to need that, but you're also going to need, to play better pass coverage. That's where Illinois really kind of struggled.
Yeah.
Was the deep ball. Obviously, they made great interception plays. They stopped them when they needed to, but you're going to need to be more consistent on your coverages, and that's going to be a huge thing, especially on 3rd and longs, because obviously the thing that kills defenses most is 3rd and long conversions. That hurts. You're tired. 3rd and long, you're tired. You think you stopped them, and then they convert it, and you got to play another 4 down, something like that. So it is tough. I think this team, with all the experience, with coaching, obviously, it's a weird year. This is a weird year for everybody. That's going to be the precedent for everybody. Everybody's coming in with a new schedule. Everybody's coming in with limited practice time, not a lot of camp, all that stuff. But you're going to have to be consistent. You're going to have to be more consistent than you've been in the last 3 years. And it's really going to need to show for this team.
Yeah, and I think 4-4 sounds bad, but it is a reasonable goal.
I think so.
If you think about it, that's really 8-4, 7-5 in a regular year. So if Illinois can get to the 500 plateau and then maybe win one game or be competing there, I mean, we could see another bowl performance, which I'd be excited about.
Well, yeah, that's the thing now. There's no more win requirement for bowl games because this year everybody has a different schedule. So, I mean, yeah, Illinois could be 4-4, maybe even 3 or they could be 4-5 in the season. They could be maybe even 3-6 and wind up in a bowl game if the bowl voters think that that they showed up well enough in those games that they won, or the games that they lost were close enough. So it'll be very interesting come late December, early January, how these votes turn out, what the bowl situation will be like. Obviously, the Pac-12 have decided to play. I don't know if they've reinstated the Rose Bowl yet. I
don't think they have.
I don't think they have. I would assume that they're trying to get something to at least continue the tradition. Obviously, you won't be able to have people in the stadium. You won't be able to have a Rose Bowl parade. Those are obviously really big things when you think about the Rose Bowl. But you might be able to have that bowl game between two of the top teams in the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. That's obviously important for that tradition. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously, this year is so unprecedented. But I think we talked about it at the beginning of last year. We need to see some improvement. It started off shaky last year. I think they won 3 or 4 in a row. And that was a really good sign for the Illini. But you need to keep seeing progression, right? They talked about it after they made the bowl game. We don't want to just keep being a bowl team. We want to be a team that in a couple years can compete for Big Ten championships. And this is a year that you can really gain ground on people. Everybody's going to be in a weird situation, right? Not everybody's going to have the same exact time that they had in years past. So you're really going to need to capitalize on that. And I think that's obviously most important for this Illinois team. Yeah,
and last year it felt like there were more great performances than there were bad performances. I'm looking at the results from a season ago. It really looks like the team only had one bad game, that Northwestern game.
Yeah.
Even the Minnesota loss, even though it was a 23-point loss, which, looks bad.
Right.
Minnesota was one of the best teams in the country throughout the season, and they beat a great Penn State team and were competing for the Big Ten. So I feel good coming off of last year and going into this year, but it's like with the Bears in 2018, where you go 12-4, you lose in a heartbreaking fashion when you think you have Super Bowl chances. What are you going to do the next year? Are you going to come back and be just as good? Obviously, they weren't in 2019. It's going to be interesting how the Illini can take that step forward, because are they up there with the elites in the Big Ten? I don't think so quite yet. But can they at least show, as you said, consistency throughout these games and not just roll over in big-time games?
Yeah, no, for real. And I think you said it best. It's like they're not Wisconsin, right? Mm-hmm. They're not Ohio State by any stretch of the imagination. But this is obviously a team that has had a rough last 15 years in the program, right? And there's been moments in past where Illinois is one of the best teams in the country, one of the best programs in the country. And this is a school that obviously you see it with the basketball program right now. Hopefully there's some sort of longevity there. Mm-hmm. They want football to be back on there, right? I remember coming in freshman year, right? You'd go to a game and Memorial Stadium was maybe half full. Even at the beginning of last year, maybe half full.
It was full when Wisconsin came.
Right, and that's
came, not when Rutgers came.
Right, exactly. And this program, this is Big Ten football, right? This is very, very influential football in this country, and people come to Big Ten schools because they want to have a good sports program and stuff. And this is the chance to make up that ground and to become competitive. And if Illinois wants to deliver on all those things that, you sign this coach with a great history in Lovie Smith, right? You put all this money into the football program. You try to go out and recruit and all this stuff. If they're serious about it, it's time to show it. It's time to show it on the field. And they need to have consistency this year. They need to show up and they need to play. And, I think if anybody knows that best as a football team, it's Lovie Smith. I'm sure he feels a little bit of the pressure even before last year. People were pressuring him and because he hasn't had the greatest record at Illinois. But, it is what it is. And I think that, obviously we're going to preach this all year, but it's consistency. And we'll see when it comes to those first 3 games. Obviously, it's not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination, but, consistency is a big thing, right? Even if they're not winning, if they're consistent, if you know what you're going to get out of them, if they're playing up to their potential, then it's going to be a good season for the Illini. And if they're not, it won't.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's starting to feel like the beginning of the century when the basketball team was rolling and the football team was continue to roll. And Illinois, they used to have that sort of eye-catching sentiment with them where if you saw that they were playing, you would watch those games, similar to a Wisconsin or Penn State now. But there's a couple more steps in between that the Illini, if they can build off of this season, if they can somehow go 5-4, right, and if they can keep the ball rolling, that'll be huge for this program's success.
Yeah. And obviously when they brought in Josh Whitman and he's been changing up the coaches, they want this school to be a successful sports team, right? We see the commitment. We see it from all sports, basketball, volleyball. They're trying to get women's basketball to rise up the ranks in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's been a little hard.
It has been a little hard, but Nithin, you obviously cover that. You know how hard they're working on recruiting. You know they're bringing in different coaches. You know all this and all that. It's the same with the football program, and that's where it honestly starts. It's the football program. That's the moneymaker. That's what attracts.
Would you say it starts with the football program? Because I feel like it kind of starts with the basketball program.
Well, here it starts with the football. Well, yeah, here it starts with the basketball program. But, even if you have a good basketball team, if you're a Big Ten school and you don't have a great football team, it's kind of hard to stay in those ranks, right? Like, you look at Wisconsin, right, who is a very consistent football team or football school and a pretty consistent basketball team, right? They have teams every few years that are really good. Same with Ohio State, right? Michigan. And if Illinois wants to compete with those, and Michigan State, right? If Illinois wants to compete with those, they're gonna have to. I think football.
There's a duality with it,
right? Exactly. There's a duality with it. That's a perfect word to describe it. But obviously, here it's starting with basketball, which is a great thing to see. But there is that dual relationship that if you're a Big Ten school, you're gonna need to be good at football too. And I think this year especially is gonna have such a huge impact on that. But yeah, that'll lead us to our first break. When we come back. MLB has started. We're covering the Cubs, the Sox, the Cardinals, and then obviously NBA finals start tonight. So you already know me and Nithin talking about NBA. So stick with us on Illini Drive 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. So today, first day of the MLB playoffs. 3 teams that are huge.
Second day.
Second day? Oh,
yeah,
my bad.
Yesterday.
Ooh, bad. Second day of the MLB playoffs. 3 teams that are huge in Illinois. You got Chicago Cubs, White Sox, and obviously St. Louis Cardinals. All played today. Both Chicago teams lost. Cubs 5-1 to the Miami Marlins, and then later in the day, the Sox lost to the A's 6-2 or 6-3. And now the Cardinals are playing up 6-3 to the San Diego Padres. So the Cubs game, I was watching the Cubs game, sitting down doing my homework, and yeah, I mean it was tough. Kyle Hendricks was pitching pretty well. Obviously, the weather was weird out there, so it was. Obviously, we saw some errors. We saw it kind of hard to get that grip on the pitch down. Some hits go not that far because of the wind. We saw that with both teams. But then as the weather started to clear up, Ian Happ hit a solo home run. That was the only run for the Cubs. Yeah. And then later in the 7th inning, Kyle Hendricks started to slip up and then let one go to Corey Dickerson, who hit a 3-run homer. Then later that inning, Jesus Aguilar hit a 2-run homer, and that was pretty much all she wrote. The Cubs, who have not been that good on offense at all this season, like I think kind of the chance was over for them that late in the game. How'd you feel about the game, Nithin?
Not good.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. It felt like there was so many decisions that you wanted to change even at the time.
Right.
Hendricks has 96 pitches after 6 innings. You figure, all right, maybe he just goes in, faces one batter, comes out. I mean, he was at 105 when he got pulled, which in the playoffs, that's a lot of pitches. Ideally, yeah, you would have pulled him either after he gave up one single. Granted, there's some context that needs to be stated that, like, Kyle, the results were good through 6 innings.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he was pitching that great. It was just he was phenomenal at getting out of jams.
True.
He's gotten so many guys got on first or second with 1 or no outs, and he got out of them every single time until that last fateful inning in the 7th, tough. Where basically everything imploded and the Cubs gave up those 2 home runs. The offense has just been really bad this year.
Yeah.
And it hasn't really been good in the playoffs since 2016. I saw a stat where it was in the last 13 games, which is the games since the Cleveland series, the Cubs have scored 28 total runs.
Jeez.
And one of those games, they scored 9 runs. So in 12 of those games, they've scored 21 runs, which is just unacceptable. And you can't win games in the baseball.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at this right now. Ian Happ had 2 hits. Wilson Contreras had 1 hit. And then Javi Baez had 1 hit. Other than that, no offense, like at all. And yeah, I mean, like that's just you can't like hope to be a successful playoff team if you're not scoring, right? You're gonna need to hit the ball, and when you have 4 hits in a game in a playoff game where it's pretty monumental, it's a 3-game series, right? So you're gonna have to jump on them quick, and they didn't. They missed their chance to get game 1. Obviously, 3 games in this series, so the Cubs still have a chance, but it's not looking good because I mean,
game 1's crucial.
Yeah, it's crucial. In a 3-game series, it's tough to come back from that. So obviously you've seen the Cubs do it before, but yeah, moving on to the Chicago White Sox. The Athletics kind of put them on early, 5 runs in the first 4 innings, and then the Sox didn't score their 3 runs until the 8th and 9th inning. Did you watch any of that game?
Yeah, I caught a little bit.
What did you think of it?
Keuchel didn't look great. I mean, he'd only allowed 2 home runs the entire year, and then 2 home runs in this game, which, I mean, yeah, that's just going to hurt right away. He only got through 3 1/3. I wouldn't be too stressed if I was the Sox because you're going into Game 3 tied 1-1. I thought it was a drastic difference in starting pitching performance from a day ago, and Lucas Giolito was phenomenal. I mean, he had 6 perfect innings before the 7th inning when the Snell got on. They eventually scored a run. I wouldn't feel scared at all if I'm the White Sox. I mean, this is the year like for the Cubs 2015 where they weren't supposed to be this good, and then they were. I think I'd feel very confident at this point. I mean, the A's really haven't looked great other than a couple of innings.
Who do you think wins then tomorrow?
Do you know who the pitching matchup is?
I can look real quick for you.
But yeah, that's kind of heavily dependent on that because obviously you're not going to get Giolito again, which would be ideal in a game 3. But I mean, right now, from what I've seen, I'd probably take the Sox.
Right. And then do you think the Cubs come back against the Marlins or no?
So I think Darvish is going to win tomorrow because Darvish has
been playing
ace this entire season. I mean, I think like a 2.01 or something ERA. Been phenomenal. But my concern is with John Lester in that Game 3 performance because John is a big game performer, but he hasn't been good for the last 2 years. And it has worried me a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And then moving on to the Cardinals, who are up 6-3 right now. Let me read you some stats real quick. Paul Goldschmidt had that home run, I think, in the first inning. Brought in 2. Yadier Molina had an RBI. Matt Carpenter had 2 RBIs. They're swinging.
Yeah.
Padres also have. It's only the top of the 6th inning, so obviously a lot of time left for the Padres to come back. But what do you think the potential for this Cardinals team is?
I mean, I think they're going to win the series just because Clevenger wasn't pitching this game, which completely messes with their starting rotation. I mean, their bats have been good today, but like on the season, they haven't been great. So it really depends, similar to the Cubs, if their offense can show up.
Definitely. And then obviously you look at the Cubs and Sox, who are always in that battle for Chicago. In the last few years, it's been Chicago. Before that, I mean, the last few years, it's been the Cubs. I said Chicago, like they're not both from Chicago. Last few years, it's been the Cubs. Prior to that, obviously, from 2005, it's been the Sox. Obviously, the Sox have built this young core that is really good, and obviously, they're going to be good, I think, for the next few years. The Cubs seem to be kind of at the tail end of what they put together.
Yeah.
What do you think the Cubs need to do to come back next year and be more successful on offense than they were this year? Is there a move? Is there a different rotation or a hitting rotation that you would like to see? What do you think their offensive problem comes from?
I mean, sadly, I think it might be trading Chris Bryant. And I've loved KB, but he was terrible this year. And I mean, part of it's a small sample size, but he didn't look good at all this year. And who knows if it seems like the Cubs aren't going to re-sign him. So maybe you just trade him, try to build up your farm system, maybe get a good utility player in the process. I really don't see too many chances for the Cubs to be great coming up. They're probably going to have to retool.
Yeah, definitely. And that sucks because 2016 was fun. But I mean, I'm not a Sox fan by any means, but I mean, this is a fun core. You have Tim Anderson, Yasmani Grandal, Yohan Makata, Jose Abreu, just some straight sluggers out there.
Oh boy.
They're good. They're fun to watch. And I'm happy for him because Tim Anderson's one of my favorite in the MLB right now.
It's a weird relationship between White Sox and Cubs where, yes, there's that rivalry, but it's not really a rivalry because Cubs will hop on the White Sox bandwagon.
Yeah, I think they both. Yeah, I think there's definitely. I think the fans, there's definitely some animosity, especially during Crosstown Classics. And obviously for the next few years, the Sox will be able to tote that they're better than the Cubs, which I think they will be. They built this team pretty well. But I think there is like a kind of like, go represent the city, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Mets Yankees.
Yeah. And this Sox team is cool. Like I'm glad that this is like a swag team. Like they have the swag, they know what's up, and it's a fun team to watch. And I'm not a Sox fan, but I do like watching them. But yeah, moving on to, obviously we'll keep you covered on MLB as the playoffs progress, but moving on to a little bit of NFL, which we haven't talked about yet when it comes to that Monday night game. Yeah. So, was it in Arrowhead? No, it was in Baltimore, right?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I think Patrick Mahomes went in there, looked phenomenal. He looked did
Patrick Mahomes things.
And it's just so tough. That's just, it is what it is. It's Patrick Mahomes. But on the other end, it just, I think the problem, I don't know. I think the thing is the Chiefs defense just looks way better than we're used to.
Yeah, I mean, they started to play better last year.
Yeah.
Towards the tail end of the season. And they've played pretty well so far. I mean, I don't think they've allowed 30 points yet.
They were able to contain Lamar Jackson. He wasn't able to do what he wanted to do. Lamar missed some throws. Oh, man, I was hurt. I was hurt because he missed the Hollywood Brown, it would have been a touchdown, right? He bulleted it when he should have kind of lofted it up there. And I needed Marquise Brown to go in there and score points, and he didn't. It was tough.
I got a question for you. Did you get 6 points for his touchdown return?
That wasn't him that had the touchdown return. I thought it was. Okay. In the moment, I thought it was, and I was going to be so happy. But I can tell you who it was in a second.
Okay, because, I swear I thought he got it. I had it on.
It was Devin Duvernay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are very similar framed people, and their number both starts with 1. I think, Devin Duvernay's 13, and then obviously Marquise Brown is 15. So they look similar. So I was so excited, and I was like, wait, that's not Marquise.
My mistake, my bad.
No, but I think I would have gotten that 6 points. It was tough, but this was a non-PPR league, so I only got 1 point out of Brown. It was tough.
Oof.
But yeah, do you think? I think the craziest thing about this is that Baltimore's not it's not like they were a fluke and then they faced the Chiefs and they all fell apart. They've been really, really good this year.
Yeah.
It's just the Chiefs are just that good.
Yeah, and there is this sort of thing with Lamar where it's like, does he show up for big games? Because
he hasn't so far.
Last year he didn't really have a regular season big game. I mean,
right.
Well, did they play the Patriots?
They played the Patriots.
Yeah.
The Patriots were a little iffy last year.
They won that game, right?
He's been up until this game, he was undefeated in primetime games.
Okay.
But then I think the stat was 0-5 or 0-6 against against Patrick Mahomes or in the playoffs.
Okay.
So I think it's 0-5 against the Chiefs or the playoffs. And it's tough. It's tough because the Chiefs team, obviously, you're going to have to go out there and score pretty much on every drive, whether that's a field goal or a touchdown, because that's what the Chiefs are going to do to really any defense. So when you can't do that, it's tough. And Lamar obviously did not have a good game. He had 1 touchdown, 97 yards, 15 for 28. It was bad. However, I'm going to look at their schedule real quick. I think they can easily bounce back. They play Washington, then they play the Bengals, then they play the Eagles, and the Steelers. I think they could easily go on a run where they win 6, 7 in a row. But it's just, will that run continue into the playoffs, right?
Yeah, and actually I think the Steelers matchups are going to be really interesting this year because the Steelers are a lot better as we've seen so far. I mean, they haven't been super impressive, but we've seen that they're a competent team with Big Ben back there, and the matchup is very, very close this year compared to last year when you had Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges back there. I mean, Big Ben gives you a presence. Those receivers are great. We were talking on the Monday show how this division is somewhat up for grabs. I mean,
you think so?
I do think.
Don't let Gabby come in here and fool you now.
I'm sorry. I was kind of drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too because
she'll make you do that, but don't do it. I just don't believe in the Steelers team. But go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Well, I really like their defense. That's part of it.
Yeah.
I really like their defense, and I trust Big Ben from what I've seen, and I love their receivers. I mean, there's a lot to like.
Here's my thing, right? Their blitz is insane, right?
Yeah,
their pressure on the quarterback is insane, and that's going to be an issue when you're playing Lamar Jackson, right? They're going to need to find out a way to spread this offense out. Last year they ran a lot of bunch, they ran a lot of power, they did a lot of who's running the ball, is it a play action, are they passing, right? They're going to need to figure something out. Harbaugh's going to need to figure something out that works a little bit better, which I think they can. Obviously, Lamar is a good pocket passer. I don't think anybody's debating that. And he has his legs. So that's all amazing, right? So the blitz is the only thing I can see as a problem. The Steelers secondary, I don't think is as good as their blitz kind of makes up for.
What about Minka, though?
But that's really it, though.
Yeah.
It's Minka. And then the offense, here's my thing with the offense is they put up 26 against the Jets, 26 against the Steelers, which they almost lost that game. And Drew Lock, who got injured, I think, in the first quarter.
That was a bad win.
Bad win.
Fine one.
And then 28 against the Texans. So their offense is good, but I think they're kind of fooling. And
okay.
I think we'll see. They haven't played a great team yet. Obviously, we've seen the Texans just be really bad this year. Obviously, when you lose your best player, they're going to be bad. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with this whole Titans and COVID situation, when they're going to play Monday, Tuesday, or even if they might not play at all this week. I'm not sure. But then they have the Eagles, and they have the Browns, and then they have the Ravens. And I'm looking at the Ravens as their first real test. That's their first real game that they're going to have to go in there and win. And their defense, while I think it can help them, their offense is going to have to put up like points. So we'll see. We'll see with that one. I'm not convinced on the Steelers yet. But I know Gabby probably came in here and was trying to convince you always that this division is up for grabs. I don't think it is. I think the Ravens have played, other than that Chiefs game, have played phenomenal. And I think they'll win the division. I think Steelers could easily get a wild card, but I think the division is not.
It is worth noting that the Ravens have played a much tougher schedule so far than the Steelers. And still being 2-1, where that one loss, yes, was a pretty bad loss to the Chiefs. The 2 wins were just demolished.
Yeah, like they demolished the Browns. The Browns it wasn't even a chance. Yeah. They beat the Texans by 33-16, and
that was a blowout.
Lamar looked good in both those games, like really, really good. The Texans, they came back late, like not came back, but like scored late in that game. Like it wasn't that close. So I think the Ravens are really good, and they have a nice little, not easy schedule, but they play Washington, they play the Bengals, they play the Eagles, and then the Steelers, and then the Colts, and so they have not a tough schedule after the Chiefs, which is a nice bounce back. So yeah, we'll see. Looking forward into this next week. I'm trying to see some notable games that we'll have tomorrow. The Broncos and Jets.
That's not enough.
I'm not watching.
That's.
I probably won't be watching that.
That is a crime to Thursday Night Football. Although Thursday Night Football is known for having these terrible games.
It is, but everybody's got to have a game, right? Everybody's got to have their Thursday game.
I wish they'd do a better job scheduling these Thursday games, because there's always those like 5 games, I'd say, during Sunday that are great, not including the Sunday night game. And if you just moved one of those to the Thursday night games, the schedule would be so much better.
Well, I could tell you one right now, right? Like, I would rather see the Cardinals and Panthers on Thursday, right? I'd rather see the Patriots and Chiefs.
Yeah.
I'd rather see the Bills and Raiders. Both are playing pretty well right now. The Falcons and Packers, I'd rather see, but that's Monday night. But
weirdly, I'd rather see like Browns Cowboys.
Yeah, even Browns Cowboys, I'd rather see. And it's tough. Everybody's got to have their Thursday game, so like I understand it. But notable games, I think this Chargers and Buccaneers game could be pretty good. I think the Chargers are playing a little bit better than I expected them to play in the beginning of the year.
Defense is really good.
Yeah, their defense is really good. Their defense was giving Patrick Mahomes problems for a lot of the first half. Obviously, came back to win that game. Vikings and Texans is going to be interesting. I think this is the first chance for the Vikings to really get on the board and win one. We see their receiving group kind of starting to mesh a little bit and understand what they're doing. Texans, I think this is kind of just a lost season for them.
Which is crazy when you have Deshaun Watson. You think
it is, but you just have no weapons around him. You're going to have to go get somebody really good. So, I mean, that's kind of good for them that if they have a high draft pick, maybe they can do some trades, get somebody, or maybe pick somebody out of college that maybe
is it. GM.
Get a new GM,
coach.
And a new coach, because that still is the stupidest offseason move I think I've ever seen. But yeah, Seahawks against Dolphins, just another week for Russell Wilson to just cake his MVP trophy already.
Yeah, he's gonna cook.
Yeah, I mean, he's insane right now. He has 14 touchdowns right now, which is the lead or the highest number in the first 3 weeks. He's playing the Dolphins. How many touchdowns did he get?
I mean, it seems like 5 because that's
he can get 5, right?
Round where he's been getting 4 or 5.
What if he gets 6 and he like scores 20 touchdowns in the first?
Well, I feel like this game's going to be a blowout though, so he might just
he might they'll run a lot.
They've needed him to win these games.
Yeah,
the first 3 weeks. Maybe they just try to get like 28 points in the first half and then just
crazy. He could in the first like 6 games, like he could have or like first 6 or 7 games, he could have like 25, 26 touchdowns easily. Like people don't get like some quarterbacks don't have that their whole year.
Yeah, what was it? Mitch Trubisky had like 19 last year.
So tough. Oh man, Russell Wilson's a dog,
and he should have 15 if we're being honest. That DK Metcalf touchdown.
Oh, don't even get me started on that one because DK should have scored on that one. That's my only thing about DK is like obviously I think that's the only time I've seen DK kind of like take something off a play. He's always a hard worker, but he fumbles a lot. Yes. Fumbled a lot late last year. That obviously he's probably beating himself up about that more than anybody. That goofy, and that's like he's still young. He'll learn. That defense is just never quit in the NFL.
It's a fantasy nightmare because that's an 8-point turnaround.
No, I know that hurt. That hurt really bad. But yeah, I think the Cardinals and Panthers will be a good matchup for Kyler. I think he had a pretty bad game against the Lions.
Yeah.
Sucked for my fantasy. 3 interceptions.
He was decent, though, in fantasy. I had him, too. He got like 21 points.
Really? I thought he only had the interceptions killed, though.
Well, what does your league do for interceptions? Because mine's -2.
Mine's -2 as well.
Yeah, he had like 21 points because he had a rushing touchdown.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just tough. I hate interceptions kill me. But yeah, I think this can be a good game. Patriots Chiefs will be interesting. I think the Chiefs obviously beat the Patriots, but the Patriots have kind of had a hard schedule.
Yeah, and they've looked good.
Yeah, and they've looked good. I mean, they played. Here, I'm trying to look at their schedule.
Well, week 1 was the Dolphins.
Week 1 was the Dolphins, and then the Seahawks. And the Raiders, who are a pretty solid team so far, and the Chiefs. Then you got to play the 49ers, who, I mean, preseason looked really well. Obviously injuries, but they still looked pretty good against the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, their schedule's harder because last year they had it easy in that they played, what was it, the AFC South and the NFC East, I think, which are pretty easy divisions. This year, NFC West, and do you know the other division they're playing?
I'm trying to look right now. NFC West, and then
no. All right, I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean they have a pretty good schedule, and I mean that's tough to do.
AFC West
is the AFC West.
AFC West.
That's pretty tough to do in that situation. But Cam has looked pretty well. Obviously, he's not this transcendent what he was in 2015. He had that great game against the Seahawks where I think they should have won if they picked a better play, the last play. But yeah, and then Falcons and Packers, I think.
Oh, whoa, you're skipping one. Bills Raiders.
Yeah, I am skipping one. Josh Allen.
Josh Allen's looked really good.
Looking like a problem.
Better than I expected.
I'm not sold on Josh Allen. I think.
Oh, me neither.
I think people last year really were trying to hype him up, especially when he brought the Bills to the playoffs, which is obviously a great feat. He didn't look phenomenal in that game against the Texans. I think they played and they lost. But 5 touchdowns last week. He's looking really, really good. The Raiders are looking pretty good.
Wait, they haven't lost a game. Bills,
no.
Oh, I thought you said against the Texans they lost. My bad.
No, I was talking about the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry.
He looked terrible in that game.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't look good in that game. I was talking about the playoffs last year. Sorry for any misconceptions. But yeah, and the Bills are undefeated, so we'll see. I'm interested in that first Bills Patriots matchup then.
Oh yeah.
And that is coming. What is this week? 3, 4, 5, 6. At week 7, it's the first.
Bills defense though hasn't looked that great.
Yeah, I know, but if Josh Allen can put up 5 touchdowns, does it matter?
That's the thing though. I don't trust Josh Allen to do that.
Yeah, I don't trust him to do that consistently. But he's shown he had the talent, so we'd love to see it. But that will lead us to our second break. When we get back, it's the first day of the NBA Finals. LA, Miami, Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, LeBron James, and we got it all covered for you when we come back on Illini Drive 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. It's finally time. We've been waiting for, now a year and June, July, August, September, 4 months.
Are you counting the entire time since we started the NBA season?
Since we started since we've seen the last finals, right? Since Kawhi Leonard won his championship with Toronto. Since we've seen the NBA Finals.
Oh. Yeah.
And I am very, very, very excited for this NBA Final. This is probably the one I've been most invested with.
Okay.
I can't even tell you. It's probably since LeBron's first in Cleveland when he came back.
2015?
2015.
Okay.
Because, I don't know. This is so exciting. One, because with the exception of last year, you could even throw the Warriors in there, but we've seen a lot of repeat finals in the past 10 years. Mm-hmm. This is one with, of course, LeBron is still in it, but you have this new team, AD, who's never been to the finals, right? Rondo, who hasn't been in the finals in God knows how long, right? KCP, you have all this band of Lakers who are going to the finals. Lakers finally back in the finals after almost 10 years. And then you look at the Heat, who are in the finals with a completely different run team, different squad and everything. And finally, Jimmy Butler gets his chance at the NBA Finals. I'm very, very, very excited.
I can see it.
I don't know what to think. We've been talking about the playoffs for the past 4 weeks now or whatever. And this scenario is what I wanted. Never did I think it was going to happen until they were up 3-1 on the Celtics. How are you feeling about this, Nithin?
I'm excited too. I mean, I was pulling hard for the Nuggets. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, of course.
So I was a little disappointed with that. But, I mean, they had a fun ride, and that was so exciting. But this matchup has so many different layers to it. It has the LeBron James versus Jimmy Butler sort of thing that we've had since Chicago.
Love it.
Even though LeBron was obviously the winner every single time, Jimmy was playing great defense every single game, and it felt like he was probably the second best Bull at guarding him. I'd say Luol.
Right, Luol is just Luol.
Yeah. And then you got Anthony Davis, who's been phenomenal in these playoffs. I mean, no one's been able to stop him, partially because there haven't really been defenders able to stop him in his path. I mean, Nurkic just isn't up to the task. He's not fast enough. The Rockets, they're too small for him. And then we saw a similar thing with Jeremy Grant and Paul Millsap just being too small, trying to guard him on the Nuggets. Now we got the matchup. We got an ideal matchup.
That's what I've been telling people.
Bam Adebayo against Anthony Davis. Oh my God, that's so fun. Gabby was telling me about what you were saying about this matchup. How
well, because I just love Bam, and she just was like, I was like, look, this is like when Bam was cooking up Tice, who I was talking about with Josh last week. Who would have thought that Bam would have closed out that game going ISO against Daniel Tice? Yeah. That was insane. He had some crazy moves in that, but I was like, look at this is the guy. This is the guy. When they place AD, he's going to be the one on AD. She was like, nobody's stopping AD. I was like, this the man that gave Giannis trouble all season and in the playoffs. Like, this is the guy, I'm telling you. And she just kept dismissing me. And hopefully I show her tonight. But, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and it's clashing philosophies with these two teams. You got, on one side, the Lakers, they're heavily dependent on LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And it's worked because LeBron was phenomenal closing out that series, and Anthony Davis has been great throughout this postseason. Then on the other side, you basically have, I'd say, 7 guys who you really trust. You got Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic. That's your three-headed monster at the top, where those are the guys that you feel really confident in closing out games, getting involved in pick and rolls, and just taking over down the stretch. You're probably going to get great performances, good performances, I should say, from 2 out of 3 each game. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And then you got Duncan Robinson, you got Tyler Hero, you got Jay Crowder. Even though Kendrick Nunn hasn't really played a ton, Andre Iguodala played really well in that final closeout game. You got a lot of these different pieces that make them really tough to go at. I mean, we saw the Celtics try to score off that 2-3 zone, and once they expanded it to a point where you had like 6-6 and up throughout that defense, it was hard. I mean, Jason Tatum was taking a lot of contested shots. Kemba Walker couldn't find his rhythm. Gordon Hayward, he's coming back, so it didn't really feel totally great. I mean, it was relying on Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart to try to get buckets, and they weren't able to do that super consistently. I'm so excited as well. I mean, we saw Tyler Hero emerge, and that was Game 5. And then you got just there's so many amazing storylines and so much amazing basketball that we're going to see in this series. I think it goes 7.
I think it goes 7 too. And this is the rough part about it, right? Because I look at this, and we've talked about this hypothetical matchup for a while now, right? You look at this Heat team, who's a really, really good defensive team, right? They have, and I was telling people this earlier, right? You got Jimmy Butler and you got Andre Iguodala and Jay Crowder, who I think 2 out of 3, if not all 3, will often be on the court with each other. Those are 3 guys that you want matching up with LeBron.
Yeah.
When he's playing, right? So you're gonna have, which is different from what the Nuggets had and different from what the Rockets and the Blazers were able to do. You're gonna always have a guy on the court who you're confident can match up well against LeBron. And can switch and can guard multiple positions. And then you have Bam Adebayo, which is the first time we've seen a really, really good defensive big man, as you said, in this playoffs play against AD and LeBron. And then on the offensive end, you just got shooters everywhere. You got this team who is so good at three-point shooting. And then when it comes down to the fourth quarter, you got Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, and Goran Dragic that are all great ISO players and can get you those buckets when you need them, when the game slows down, when it's important. That's why this Heat team is so very scary for the Lakers. And then on the other end, you got the Lakers, who have been a really good defensive team all year. You've seen them shut down Damian Lillard and Russell Westbrook and Jamal Murray and all these great scorers that they played against the series, this season in the playoffs. But you also have on the offensive end LeBron James, who's playing the best assist game of his career. Like,
you think it's the best passing of his career, really?
This year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't think I don't want to downplay how great he's been.
I think. Well, okay, so this is what obviously LeBron has been one of the greatest passers his whole career, right? But I think this is when he comes in and obviously he's a little older. He's not as athletic as he used to be. He can obviously get a bucket whenever he wants to. I'm not going to downplay that. But the things that he's seeing when this offense slows down and the ability that he has to just dump it to 80 in these crazy situations, and 80's always going to get a bucket. Mm-hmm. And he has a lot of cutters around him, and he has the offense is always moving. I think this is the best situation for a passing LeBron, and that's why I think he's been so good this year, and he's averaged 10 assists in the regular season, and he finished I think he's averaging 9 assists in the playoffs right now. That's why I think is obviously LeBron is. I think his passing skill hasn't diminished or really increased. Mm-hmm. He's always been one of the best passers of all time, but that's what it is, and his facilitating of the game is so important, and that's really how he's going to beat this team. But as we saw in Game 5 of the Nuggets series, LeBron can still drop 35 whenever he wants to, and that's also what they're going to need if this game goes to 6-7 games.
What do you think is going to be like the reason why either team wins for the Lakers? And
That's a good question. So I think this series goes the stretch. And for the Lakers, obviously they're going to need AD to show up in the beginning. They're going to need him to establish, right? But if you give LeBron those last 3 games to just do whatever he wants to, that's going to be the reason they win.
Okay.
The reason that the Heat win is 2 reasons. One, they're shooting. I think they can just shoot the lights out.
Yeah.
If they have a few games spread out where Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and Goran Dragic are all hitting, it's going to be tough for the Lakers. And then it comes down to ISO with their 3 different options in Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, and Goran Dragic. If the Lakers let Tyler Hero beat them, they can easily lose this series, I think.
Really? You think it's on Hero?
Well, I don't think it's only on Hero. Obviously, I think Jimmy Butler's going to have a great series. I think Goran Dragic can do a lot with the ball in his hands. But if they let it come down to Tyler Hero and let him do what he was able to do in Game 4 or 5 of that Boston series, it's going to be tough for them to win.
To me, it comes down to one matchup. It's the Bam Adebayo Anthony Davis matchup, because I think the winner of that is going to win this series. And Bam, if he can keep up what he's been doing, he just completely destroyed Daniel Tice down the stretch. Tice was actually playing decent defense.
Yeah, there's just nothing Tice could do.
But yeah, Bam was just simply better than him. And then on the defensive end, he's the best matchup for Anthony Davis, probably in the league. I mean, I can't really think of even Rudy Gobert. I don't feel as confident.
Well, yeah, because I feel Bam Adebayo is a lot better outside the paint than Rudy Gobert is. I would say maybe Joel Embiid, but I still think
I don't think he's quick enough to.
Yeah, no, I still think Bam is very, very good laterally.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If Bam can take over the series and do what he's been doing throughout the series, I just think throughout the playoffs. Sorry, I just think the Heat are going to win the series because, as you said, they have so many great players around them. Like, you're going to have Tyler Hero, and even if he doesn't do what he did against the Celtics, he's still going to put up 14 points.
Right.
Shoot, like, he's 46% from the field, 38% from 3. Dragic is going to be great. Jimmy's going to be great. I mean, Jay Crowder, he's been a little inconsistent, but he has his moments. And you have so many guys where if you can just stifle AD and if you can win that matchup, or even, I think, cancel out that matchup.
Right.
Unless LeBron goes 2016 LeBron mode, I think the Heat are going to basically aim for that.
Right. All right. So, before Game 1, obviously it's predictions time.
Yep.
I'm very scared, but as I said before, I can't right now, in good faith, bet against LeBron. He's been here. He has more championship experience than that whole Heat team combined. He's playing really well right now. He's coming off 3 really good wins, series wins. So I'm saying Lakers in 7 as much as it pains me, but I could easily see Heat in 6 or 7. But my official one right now is Lakers in 7.
Brendyn, I've been very wrong recently. I picked the Celtics.
You did.
I picked the Nuggets. Neither of those teams worked out.
Good picks, though.
I mean, Celtics I don't feel bad about.
Right. Just, I picked the Celtics, too.
I feel like the Heat just outplayed them in that series. I'm going to hope my pick finally gets right as a Jordan fan. Although, no, nothing against LeBron. I'm going Heat in 7.
I love it. I love it. I will be so happy if the Heat win in 7. I'm hoping for it. I hope this is the one that kind of reinvents the Jimmy Butler narrative, and I'm so excited for this whole thing.
This could completely turn around
everything, and we talked about it yesterday.
Although it is kind of turned around at this point.
It has, but I think this could be like the nail in the coffin. Yeah. So I'm very, very excited for this. Game 1 in probably less than an hour right now. I'm excited. We'll fill you in on what has happened when we come back on Monday. But for me and for Nithin, this is Line Out Drive at 107.1 WPGU.